despite having some great medicines to treat IPF, which is idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. These medicines can extend survival by slowing the disease's progression, but the quality of life deteriorates as the disease moves along. The reasons we do these shows is all about the quality of life, QTR, quality time remaining. Now, I want you to understand that we will not be giving any medical advice here at all. We implore you to speak to your doctor, as every case is unique, and we're not medical professionals nor ever claim to be ones. Now, we've already spoken to people with IPF, including me, your host. We have spoken to caretakers as well. We have discussed how we are dealing with the burdens brought out by IPF. Well, tonight we're going to talk about lung transplants. Our very special guest is Andy Saurer. Andy was fortunate to have received a double lung transplant and is not wasting any time enjoying the rest of his life. So let's go back. The first successful lung transplant for pulmonary fibrosis was in 1983. The patient survived with a good quality of life for more than 5 years. Now today that number is much, much higher. Now patients with IPF are chosen for a transplant if they have a high risk of death, less than a 50% chance in the following 2 years, have a high probability of surviving at least 90 days after the transplant, and a high probability of surviving long term after the transplant from any other medical condition they have. Now this information comes from me from PubMed Central. Now there's other criteria, a hoop you must jump through to get a transplant. Then there's the cost. If your insurance doesn't cover this, your out-of-pocket can be around $1.3 million, and that's a 2022 cost number. In some cases, basically you are struggling for life, but they're putting a price tag on your mortality. See, we personally knew someone with a severe case of COPD who was only 18, and a family could not come up with the funds. In fact, they were on our show many years ago, including the daughter who lost a valiant battle to struggle to stay alive and find some normality. But tonight, we're not going to talk bad. We're actually going to celebrate, and we're going to celebrate tonight with Andy Saurer, who has a new lease on life, Canada. Well, Andy, thank you for being on our show tonight. I'm glad you're finally able to make it here. I was getting a little worried. You can't hear me. Oh, there you go. Okay. I was a little scared again. I was like, all right, he can't hear me.
Well,
so
you're choppy. I will tell you that. You're choppy.
Okay. Are you in Columbus, McDonald's? In Columbus?
I am at Columbus McDonald's, yes.
Okay.
I thought I would be able to use their Wi-Fi, but it won't let me use the Wi-Fi.
Okay. I was just
so
curious.
Much for that.
I was like, I've had somebody do an entire interview from the parking lot of some shopping mall, parked underneath the light sign somewhere. So it's like, hey, anything goes these days. Andy, tell our audience a little something about yourself, where you grew up, etc.
You want to know a little about myself?
Yes, sir. Tell where you grew up.
Okay. Well, boy. Yeah, I grew up in Azalea. You know where Azalea is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Halfway between Columbus and Seymour.
Mm-hmm.
I've done all kinds of things in my life. I are at the end of my working career. I do repairs on commercial kitchen equipment and air conditioning and plumbing and electrical work.
So the audience will probably get a good laugh out of this. The first time I spoke to Andy, okay, Andy was he called me back. He was on a roof of a Mexican restaurant in Columbus fixing an AC unit. Now,
That's correct.
Seen people in many places before. That was the first one for me. That was a new one in my book.
Well, you have to keep in mind, I had to climb a ladder to get up there.
Yes.
And even in my worst days before transplant, I would still climb that ladder with my bottle of oxygen, and I'd have whoever was helping me, usually the manager of the store, carry extra bottles up for me.
Wow. So were you wearing like a backpack?
I just wasn't. Yes, I was not going to quit. Not
Yep.
going to quit.
And and that's the thing. And I was going to start to go into IPF here now because I think that's important for people to understand that the ones that survive and do well don't quit. Okay, you keep going as long
That
and as much as you can.
That's exactly right. You
Mhm.
become determined. I'm going to make it through this.
See, I get so many people that ask me questions all the time. Aren't you worried? Aren't you concerned? And it's like, no, I'm going to deal with it every day it comes. But I'm not going to stop
Yeah.
living because I have it. I'm still going to try to do as much as I could do before.
Yeah. I regularly stop people who are wearing a cannula and ask them what their issue is, and because I want to talk to them and help them feel better about what's going on with their lives.
And you
And
see,
I've run into so many people with IPF who need somebody to talk to. I have two friends here in Columbus who have been through the transplant program down in Louisville, where I had my transplant, and I talked them through the entire process until up until then, and once they had their transplant, I went down to Louisville to visit both of them twice, and they're
and
both doing very well.
well, I'm glad to hear that too. And we're going to go into the transplant thing, but when did you first notice or start to notice that you had breathing issues?
Probably in 2013, 2014. I didn't think much about it because it was just I caught a cold in the fall, probably of 2013, and coughed up a lot of stuff. Just how you do when you have a cold. It never went away. And my brother-in-law said, "You're coughing an awful lot. You need to go have that checked out." So in 2014, November of 2014, I discovered that I had IPF.
Well,
Interestingly, my dad died of IPF, and so did my grandmother.
okay, so you were at least aware of what IPF was.
Yes,
You were told. Okay,
it was a death sentence.
yes, yeah, exactly. Well, the first time we were told that I had IPF, my first question was, "The hell is IPF?" Okay, and after they explained what it was, of course, Google Doctor, my wife here, went and started looking it up, and she sat me down. She goes, "You only have 3 to 5 years left of life."
That's right.
Like what? But we'll talk about me later. How did that diagnosis change your life? I mean, what went through your mind? Did you think I'm going to end up the same way as my dad did and stuff? Or
Um, initially, yes, and then I got my mindset straightened out, and I got on the internet and looked for best respiratory hospital in the United States.
Mhm.
I ended up at Mayo Clinic. While at Mayo Clinic, they didn't tell me you're going to die. They said we'll keep you alive as long as we possibly can.
Right.
My insurance at that point in time, the next year, stopped paying for Mayo Clinic, but they would pay for National Jewish Health out in Colorado, out in Denver, which it's tied with Mayo Clinic with respiratory. It's where everybody went when they had tuberculosis years ago. So they've continued in lungs, and IPF is their hot topic now. So I did a lot of traveling. I did a lot of searching. I did a lot of trying to figure out how to stay alive. And I ended up with one of two drugs that slow the progress. You're probably on one of them right now,
Yep.
OFEV, and I can't remember the name of the other.
Espray.
Yeah,
ESPR.
and Esprit. Yeah, Esprit. I started on Esprit. It took me for quite a while until I started to fail again, and then I was switched to OFEV, and that lasted me until I got a transplant. So my life changed incredibly on my will to survive because it had to be. It had to be. As far as working goes, I continued to work. It just makes life worthwhile.
Well, it does. See, even in our chat room right now, there's a gentleman named Carl Whipple. Okay, and Carl lives here in Indiana with all of us here, and Carl also has IPF. I met Carl a while back, and actually, he was on one of our previous shows on IPF, and I think we're all trying to keep that same positive attitude. In other words, we're not going to let it bring us down. It might take us down little by little, but we're going to remain. I think
Yeah.
part of it is having to remain positive throughout the entire time.
I tell people you have to turn your mindset into I'm the biggest, baddest person. I use a different word there. Uh, in the
You
world,
love that
and
word.
it's not. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We all use that word.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's what I did. It was not going to beat me. So it's an attitude to
Yeah.
get through.
And,
If you lay down and roll over, it's going to kill you.
it's just going to kill you faster.
Yeah,
It's really,
it's going to kill you faster.
and the fact is, like all of us, I have a lot more I want to live.
Yeah,
I'm ready to roll over and play dead.
yeah.
Okay. How did this take a toll on the rest of your family, like your daughter? Okay, after seeing that, knowing that her grandfather passed from it, now with her dad.
She didn't show her feelings. I heard about her feelings through her mother. Um, but as long as I kept going, nobody worried about me too much. It was
Mm.
only when I was laying in a hospital having some kind of procedure where they looked at her and said, he may not make it out of this.
See, and
And then she would, I'm sorry?
I think that we as patients sometimes, um, it's tough on us too, because not only are we going through what we're going through, we also care so much about the people around us and what they're going through as well.
Yes,
For myself, it's my
yes.
wife. Carl, I know it's his wife, and we had a few caretakers on the last show that we did too on this, and it's they're being strong for us, and we're trying to be strong for not only ourselves but also for them at the same
Mhm.
time, and it's a tough thing to
Yes,
do.
it is. It is.
So, okay, so how long into it did they tell you that you were going to need a transplant?
Immediately back in 2014.
Oh, wow.
The doctor looked at me and said, I can find you a nice transplant doctor. You need a transplant.
Wow. So was
And
that,
that's when I went to Mayo Clinic.
so you were that advanced when they found you out?
Yes, yes. Now we could talk about advanced, but now that I'm through the entire procedure, I recommend not waiting until you are way into the disease to seek out a transplant facility, because by that time you're so weak and you're so close to the point that there's no return, and it
Mhm.
takes a long time to get through all the testing and all the you go through days of testing where they decide whether or not they want you as a candidate for transplant. And this takes a long time, 6 months at least.
See,
So I
as,
tell people to get in there and get going.
as I said in the intro, there's so much criteria for
Yeah.
people. I was watching something this evening while I was eating my supper, not at McDonald's, but I actually I probably would have enjoyed McDonald's a lot better.
Yeah, it would have
But,
been. Yeah.
um, but there was a doctor and he was talking about transplant. He's like, unfortunately, like only 2% of the people that have IPF will ever get a transplant
Yeah.
because all the other um, ailments that you have, like
Yes.
diabetes, heart problems, and everything else play into it. And then, of course,
Yeah.
age starts to play into it. You know, the thing said that I'm trying to find it here again because I know I have the intro written here. It says that you have to, they have to expect you to live at least 2 years
Hmm.
after they give you the transplant. Otherwise, they won't give it to you.
Right.
So you have to have, a high probability of surviving at least 90 days after the transplant, and a high probability of surviving long term from any other medical conditions that you have. So, I've seen a lot, and Carl will know what I'm talking about. There's an IPF group on Facebook, one of the groups there, and they're all talking the same thing. By the time you reach the point of saying your doctor, your regular doctor, your pulmonologist says it's time to go look for a transplant, you're
Hmm.
already far progressed along to probably get that transplant.
Yes.
So that's actually
And
not
in
bad.
that case, I self, um, what do they call that? I didn't wait for my doctor to send out a request. I did it
Mhm.
myself down in Louisville.
And that's probably, we don't give medical
So I,
advice, and this really isn't medical advice. Okay, we're not saying take this drug over another drug, but it's not a bad idea what Andy's saying here for all of us is to take that
yeah,
step because this way they can run because they will run all those tests now, correct? If you were to go,
correct.
okay. So it'd be good to get those out of the
And they want
way.
to make sure they want to make sure you have all your vaccines. They want to make sure that everything, I mean everything, because when you're done with this, you don't have an immune system.
Right.
So they count on all your vaccinations to keep you from catching shingles or tuberculosis or whatever is out there that you get uh, a shot for. They want to make sure you're not going to get it. So you have to go through hepatitis, uh, and that takes a long time too.
So tell me about going to the hospital for the transplant. Well, obviously you were there already for the transplant, but tell me to talk to the audience a little about that day. That's probably a better way of putting it.
That day, that day, I was installing a new heat pump at church,
Okay.
soldering the pipes. I had my oxygen on, and oxygen is an oxidizer, so of course, so it makes flames really hot. And they tell you not to be near a fire. Well, I was soldering the pipes shut so I could get this done, and I got the unit running. And the friend of mine that was helping me, another trustee at church, looked at me and said, Andy, I've been praying that we would get this done and you'd get a call for a transplant. So we took off. He went his way and I went my way because I needed to refill my weekly supply of oxygen bottles at Williams Brothers here in town. And I walked in and they were getting my 28 bottles of oxygen ready for me. And my phone rang and I looked down and it was from Louisville. And they had told me, if you see a call from Louisville, you pick it up. So I picked it up and is this Andy Saurer? Yes, it is. And she said, this is Mary from University of Louisville Transplant. And I said, what are you doing? Calling to tell me you got lungs for me? Ha, ha, ha. And she said, well, as a matter of fact, I am.
Ha ha ha.
You could have bowled me over with a feather. I called my daughter. She picked up her phone. She never picks up her phone at work. And I said, I got my phone call. What phone call? They've got my lungs. So I went home and she and her husband drove me to Louisville. Of course, it was right in the middle of COVID. This was the first year of COVID in July. It was also right when all the riots were happening in Louisville. And everything was locked up. Everything was boarded up. Only one entrance to the hospital was open. She couldn't come in. She had to just leave. And I walked in And the next thing I remember, I was waking up from a transplant.
Okay.
So that was that day.
Yeah, how did that feel? I mean, just to suddenly wake up and say, "Oh crap, I have new lungs." Now, do you have a
Well,
double transplant, or was it a single lung?
I got a bilateral. I got both lungs.
Okay.
And waking up from it, and I tell everybody this that I talk to. I talked to a friend about IPF and about his. Um, sorry about the kids screaming. If you can hear that.
That's okay. Those are my Happy Meals.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh my.
That's
So
okay.
it's ruining my train of thought.
Okay. I was gonna say we don't hear it that loud here. So.
Okay. Um, he said that his advice to me. He said when he woke up from transplant, he looked at his wife because they were yelling at him to breathe, and it was so very difficult. He looked at his wife and he says, "I don't think I can do this." And she got down in his face and she said, "We didn't come for this far for you to quit now. Breathe." Well, guess who else was in that situation? It was so difficult to breathe. And I had people yelling at me to breathe, breathe. And you've got to inflate those lungs. And in my mind, I was thinking, I can't do this. And then I remembered his voice in my mind, and I knew I had to do it. It's not an easy, you watch some pictures on YouTube and you see people waking up, and it's like a coffee commercial. No, it's not a
So
coffee
Folgers in
commercial.
a cup, okay?
Yeah. When I went in, I asked my doc, I said, "Hey, can you take a video for me?" So I have a video on my phone of my chest split open, missing one lung. You can see all the way down to my rib cage, and you can see the other lung breathing and my heart pumping.
Wow.
It's pretty incredible.
Yep. Well, it's incredible that the procedure can actually take place and you can get extended life from it. It gives us hope for those that, the medicines aren't working that well for.
Yes,
That
yes.
there's a different way out.
And OFEV and Espriet are nothing but band-aids. There is
Yep.
no cure to this disease,
Not yet.
but they will keep you alive a little bit longer, but they will not do the trick for 20 years.
Now, you see, I know what, like with myself, with the OFEV, I've only was diagnosed a year ago, and it's a little over a year now. And when they took the CAT scan this year, the doctor said, to me, these are in reverse. He said, I'd expect to have seen them the other way around. He said, because there is no more swelling, inflammation stuff. He says, and your lungs are looking well. And, knock on wood, I feel great. Somebody
Yep.
up there watching, whether they're laughing or watching, I'm not sure which one, but someone's paying attention upstairs. And, I know that OFEV is not the answer. Okay. Its side effects will probably there's probably side effects we don't know about that will probably take us in the long run. I'm just hoping that they have singled it down to a certain protein now that causes this.
Mm-hmm.
And they've also, and this is not here in this country, it's in Germany or Canada.
Yes.
And they figured out that when they stop this thing from producing, the lungs actually start to heal a little bit from not getting that protein sent in there. So there are some signs of positiveness, whether it happens in my lifetime or Carl's lifetime or any of we can only hope. But now, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not actually cured of IPF, are you? No.
No, I could get it again.
Right. It would just
And
start all over again for you.
yeah, and one of now it's likely, however, that I will pass before I get IPF again.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. These are things the doctors probably don't tell you before you go in for a transplant. You're probably going to end up with diabetes,
Gotta
and
be
then
right.
you're probably and then you're probably going to end up with kidney failure. Now, both of those they can treat, and both of those they can transplant your kidney, but it's a 5 to 6 year wait. It's unlike lung disease. It's you got to wait, and they'll put you on dialysis for years, unless you find a live donor.
Right.
Um, the other thing that maybe they did tell me right after transplant, and this is happening to me now, since I have no immune system, I'm getting little cancers. I have a just removed from the top of my head, and there is a spot in my right lung that's going to be removed this next Tuesday on the 17th. So they don't know if that's a malignant or benign. I'm praying for benign. But the surgeon looked at me. No, it wasn't the surgeon. Yes, I think it was the surgeon. And he said, this is your life now. You don't have an immune system. And most people after transplant don't die of rejection. They die of cancer.
Well, explain to me because, okay, you got my mind reeling. You never get your immune system back?
No, they give you medications that suppress your immune system, but they give you antivirals, antibiotics, anti this, anti that. I take a full handful of pills in the morning, and then I take a handful of pills later in the day. I take a few pills first thing in the morning, an hour before my handful. So I'm taking pills like crazy. So what they do is they keep you alive with antibiotics and antivirals, and they work pretty well because I haven't had COVID yet. I haven't had the flu. I haven't had a cold. I haven't had any of this stuff that everybody around me seems to be getting. So I'm either highly blessed by my father, or I am lucky, or these medicines are working.
See, I don't know. I don't know a lot of people with IPF, but maybe Carl can tell me if he's seen inside that group. I haven't seen too many people with IPF get COVID. That's kind of interesting because I know they say that the last thing they want us to get is
Yeah,
COVID,
exactly. Yeah.
a lung disease, and of course, I got all the so-called vaccinations
Yes.
as they came out because some people said, "Well, it don't work," and I was like, "But the thin chance that it does might save my life."
Yes.
I mean, so I'm not going to go into the government side of it or whether or not they're forcing this stuff on me. See, he hasn't heard of anyone getting COVID either. He just
Yeah.
answered up there. So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting, and I'll do some research on that just for my own knowledge of of that. How many people with IPF have gotten COVID? Now,
Hmm.
I do know that the number of people with IPF has increased since COVID
Hmm.
because there's a lot of people that have
Oh,
gotten
yes.
and
Yeah.
the issues started and didn't go
Yes.
away. Yeah.
Yes. I have a friend in North Vernon, banjo player,
Yes.
and he got COVID, almost died.
Yeah.
I
Adam's
think
dad.
you know him.
Yeah, Adam's dad. Adam and Eric's
Yeah.
dad. Yep.
Yeah.
Cindy's. Yep. I'm trying to think of his name. I can't think of his first name.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I was
Oh, Russell.
Russell. Thank you.
Yeah.
Know them very well, and I just do a blank.
Yeah. Yeah. Understand the blank.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you are in a life-saving mode.
Mhm.
That's why you went and got the COVID shots, because I did the same thing. And then
Right.
they did a test. Then they did a test on me and called me and said, "You don't have any antibodies. Your body is not producing antibodies." So they came out with another vaccine. It's not really a vaccine. It's a combination of shots that they give to people who have had a transplant, uh, who have not had COVID, who really not necessarily have not had a transplant or have had a transplant. It's people who have a reduced immune system.
Okay.
And this shot or series of shots is called Evusheld, Evusheld.
Yeah.
And Evusheld is two shots at a time, one in each butt cheek. And I've had three of those. And it must be working.
There's too many doctors around here that would enjoy to give me a shot in the butt. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. Now, no doctors around here know about this. You have to go to a transplant center to
Okay.
find out about this medication. And you have to have not having COVID before.
Now, after you got the transplant and you were out and stuff, did they give you any restrictions?
Oh, yes. He wouldn't let me drive for months. I went down, and every time I'd go down, I'd say, okay, doc, when do I get to drive? Hoping he would. I walked out. Okay, most people spend weeks in the hospital after transplant. I
Mm-hmm.
walked out of there in 10 days. That's how determined I was.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd come back and I'd say, when can I drive? Knowing that it was in the future. He looked at me one time and he said, what did I tell you last time? I said, I told him whatever it was. He said, well, I'm going to treat you like one of my kids. It's now a month farther along just because you asked. That was my first restriction, not driving. Of course, I had a lifting restriction. Pretty much I could do whatever. I mean, I took care of myself. I when I got home. I can't remember anyone having to be my nursemaid. But there were people that are there to take care of me and make sure that I never fell down. I never did any damage to myself. And I had someone to drive me back and forth to all of the doctor's appointments that I had, which were plentiful.
Now, what was the reason that they didn't allow you to drive?
The drugs, probably, I don't know. Maybe they were afraid my chest would pop open.
We can make a Hollywood movie out of that one.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
It's just, sometimes, I mean, I understand, even like with the IPF, we went through, before I understood, um, I do most of the driving. My wife doesn't like to drive.
Yeah. Okay.
Stuff, and I'd be in the car driving. All of a sudden, I'd start this yawning stuff, and it's like, huh? Okay, I mean, I've slept like 11 hours last night. Okay, I was fine 2 minutes ago in Walmart. Why am I yawning now? And I used to think, well, maybe it was the car. So we opened the window to see, if that helped and stuff. Nothing. We even turned the oxygen up, 5 liters. Let's try that one, okay? And that didn't work either. But it's just the oxygen in your body sometimes. Just
Yeah.
I know myself. If I stand up fast, I'm sure Carl's gonna do this, and I'd like to. He said he doesn't trust anyone else driving. I trust my wife; she just won't drive. Okay, but even if I stand up fast, I get dizzy sometimes.
Yes.
That part, that's the sucky part, because sometimes people don't understand that you just don't feel right at that very moment. Now, don't get me wrong; it's not that I don't want to do certain things, but sometimes I'm just not feeling well enough to do certain things. And stand and black out. Yeah, exactly. Because that's literally what I feel like. If I stand up, I'm about to fall. So, sometimes I grab the dresser when I stand up out of the bed, because I get a little dizzy from it. And another thing is that, we're supposed to stay active during the time, because the more active you are, the better. Well, Indiana and cold weather, okay, it's very hard to stay active outside during that. So, in my case, we're actually moving to Florida. We actually just sold a house. They're going to close on it next month, and we're moving down to Florida just to be in some place I'd rather be thrown away people say, "Well, aren't you afraid of hurricanes?" I was like, "We live where there's tornadoes." Okay, you know that here in Indiana, we're told 15
Mhm.
minutes before
Yeah.
time, run and take cover. They're
Yeah.
told a week before time that there's a hurricane coming. I was like, but my ass will be out of there before it even thinks about making sure.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to
Yeah.
worry about. At least I have some notice to get out of there and stuff. So now you go around now. You still do. You're retired, right?
Yes,
Okay. So, but I know one place you're not retired from, and that's the Columbus Symphony Orchestra.
that is true.
How did you get? When? All right. So let's back up just slightly. When did you first pick up the bass?
Oh my.
You wanted to play.
Uh, I think I was 26 years old. I played the trumpet and the banjo and several other instruments before I picked up the bass
Mm-hmm.
because there was a need for the bass in orchestra.
Okay.
And I went in playing the trumpet, went to the percussion section, and the director looked at me and said, "I'll teach you how to play the bass if you get a bass. I'll even find you a bass." And he did. And I took some lessons from him and learned quickly, and I've been there ever since.
Now, from my understanding, is you've also played the tub bass.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
You also played the tub bass.
That is true. That's what I started with, the washed up bass. I
Yep.
played the washed up bass in the bottom of the Grand Canyon with a buddy of mine,
There you
two
go.
buddies of mine. Yeah.
So, how did you go from orchestra then to uh, okay, I just want to get note because I always want to say hillbilly music, but
Bluegrass.
bluegrass. Thank you. Okay, how
Yeah.
did you go into bluegrass music from orchestra music?
I play many, many different styles. I play jazz. I play big band music. If you hand it to me or want me to help, as a stand in a band, no matter what style except for rock, I'll stand there and play all day long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Call me. I'll fill in the rock bass.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Okay.
go. Because I mean I picked it up when I was young. Guitar. I played guitar, bass, drums, and keyboards. I mean
Uh
I've
huh.
played church organs, pipe organs. I've actually played a wedding at the United Nations. Okay,
Wow.
and stuff. So yeah, I've gone that route. Um, but so I guess a big question is now all of a sudden I look at it. Somebody up there hands you some more years of your life back,
Hmm.
pain-free years of your life back.
Hmm.
What do you have planned for those years?
Live the best life I can. Love as much as I can. Um, thank God for the extra years that He gave me, and pray for the family whose loved one lost his life to give me life.
Yeah, because someone did pass for you to get those lungs, and
Yes.
I think that's. I was going to do it later, and I'll probably do it again at the end of the show. But I think people need to realize how important it is to click that donor button on their
Oh,
card
yes. Yes.
because you're alive today. You're sitting here talking with me in McDonald's, but I mean, you're sitting there talking to me because someone clicked off the donor card,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
donated their lungs. Now, did they ever ask you if you wanted to meet the family or let you know anything about the person?
We have never met. I do know that he was late teens, early 20s,
Okay.
and his lungs were perfect. They looked at me and said, "You got the most perfect set of lungs that we could have ever wished for you." The guy didn't smoke. He didn't do anything like that. I was at I was in Louisville at my regular checkup on Tuesday, and I took a pulmonary function test. You know what that is?
I
You
sure
get in a
do.
box and they make
Uh-huh.
you blow on, yeah, to see what your lung volumes are. And she looked at me and she said, "That is the best you've ever blown in this thing. You're off the records. Your lungs are fantastic." My kidney doctor listened to my lungs today, and he patted me on the back and he says, "Wow, these lungs are clear as a whistle."
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. So even this far along now, I will tell you that my lungs have gone back and forth because of water retention. We discovered that my readings went down because I was retaining water. We got rid of that water with some torsemide, and I'm breathing great now.
Put you in a drier temperature. It will dry it up.
Yeah, yeah,
Tell them, listen, did insurance pay for me to go to the Bahamas? Okay, you just sit in the Bahamas for a while.
yeah, yeah.
And that would really work.
That would
Um,
work well.
like one of the things that I know for myself with the PFT test, I mean, they have me down to like 42%.
Oof.
And I'm like, I know I'm not that bad. I mean, I can hold my breath in and blow out really, really well. What I didn't get about that test was they're testing the length of time you can blow out. But
Yes.
the woman, well, the nurse, I should say, well, she's a woman, but the nurse
Yeah.
tells me, she says, okay, take a deep breath in, blow out as hard as possible.
Yes.
Well, I'm blowing out as hard as possible. I'm blowing everything out at once. Okay, there's not going to be longevity in that. Now, if she touches, okay, blow out. Okay, I can blow out in a nice little length of time there in the blowout. But no, she wants it all out in one shot, and I think that's part of what's giving me the lower numbers. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I whatever it is, and you know, I've I put my faith in God. That's really
Yeah.
all I can do. I'm not a big religious person. Anyone knows me, I mean, I believe there is a God and stuff. We
Hmm.
nothing would be here without something. So there's some kind of power or source up above, and I believe they just gave me that. Now I was told to ask you about your nickname, Handy Andy.
All right. You just cut out. What were you saying?
Okay. I was told to ask you about your nickname, Handy Andy.
Oh, yes. Yes. Boy, you've done some research.
Yes, I dig it to everybody.
Yes. Yeah, because I fixed stuff. I took on that name years and years ago. I have many nicknames.
Mhm.
Some I can't repeat on air.
I think that's why they only gave me the clean ones.
Yeah. So Handy Andy really fits because that's what I've done most of my life. Well, not most of my life, but I was a dental technician for 25 years and did crown and bridge work. The dentist would prep your tooth for a new crown. They'd send an impression to me, and I would make a new gold crown or a porcelain crown and send it back to the dentist.
So you always made a good impression.
That's exactly right. I tried to. Yes.
Yeah. So I was told you have a good sense of humor. That was the other
Yeah.
thing he said to me was, it's just beware. He's got a wild sense of humor. I was like, well, you seem like most, and we'll get along really, really well.
Yeah, but I'm on the air, so I'm trying to
Yes,
be
I
good.
know. I'm trying to. I'm really trying to be good.
Yeah.
Trust me. If I get too far out of line, see, my wife's teaching a class tonight, but usually she's watching from the other computer, and I'd usually get a
Uh-huh.
text or something saying, stop. Okay. Or pay attention, let the guest speak or something, but she's teaching a class tonight. So I'm surprised
Yeah.
Carl is doing it on his end, okay, because Carl sometimes keeps me in place too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put you on the spot right now, okay? And I don't like doing that to my guests, but I'm going to for a second. And I'm going to give you the full screen too, okay? And I'm going to be quiet, which some people say is difficult, but if you were to give IPF sufferers a message, okay, about what to expect and what to do now, and prior to a transplant and stuff, what would you tell them?
I don't know if I just disappeared or not.
You didn't disappear, but you froze. But we can hear you, so you can keep talking.
Okay, good. Um, what I would tell them is don't give up. Seek out as much information as you can. Um, do not give up. Go to the internet. Look for the best hospital. Don't just settle on a doctor in Columbus, Indiana, or North Vernon, Indiana, or Greenwood, Indiana. Go somewhere where there's are A+ doctors. Um, the other thing that I would say is go to srtr.org, and at srtr.org there is they tell you all the transplant hospitals in the United States and all the organs.
Okay, now we may have lost him. I don't know if he can hear me or not, but I think we might have lost him for a second. Andy, if you heard me and lost me, go out of the room and try to come back in because now you're completely locked up. But I put, for those that are listening, I put the srtr.org link that's on there right now. Um, I think that's important. See, someone like Andy is really important for us. Um, Anyone that's got IPF and knows about the quality of time remaining. Okay, it looks like he's coming back in here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
I
Okay,
don't see my picture, but I see yours.
okay, well, that's okay. The main thing is that we can hear you because all of a sudden we stopped hearing you for a while too.
Okay. So you got the part about the SRTR.
Yes, I even put a link on the page for them to see it.
Yeah, and that was very very beneficial for me choosing a hospital, um, somewhere close, especially given that you are going to so many meetings afterward. You need to be somewhere close. Is this echoing for you?
Oh no, you're fine. No, what happened was you showed up again in this room. So, and I
Uh,
turned it on to see if I get a picture, and that's when it echoed for a second. So you're okay.
okay. Um, what else can I tell you? I'm happy to talk to anybody at any time if they want to talk about IPF and their situation with IPF and are scared but don't know what to do. I've talked to many people like that. But if you have um, a major issue, health issue, unfortunately, they're not going to accept you.
Yeah, and that's the sad part of that. As someone had said in the room, in the IPF room one day, they said, I'm healthy now. I could use the transplant, but they won't give it to me now. They say I'm not that bad enough yet, but when I get bad enough that I'm going to need it, I'm not going to be healthy enough to get it.
Well, that person needs to get on the treadmill and start
Take
working their tail off,
Yeah, and
because
that's
that's what I did.
yeah, you have to take care of yourself. I mean, there are so many people in there that still go for a walk every night. They
Yep.
ride their bicycle. They do weights. Free weights. Don't kill yourself. Literally. I mean, you want to do enough that you can go to your doctor. They'll take you to pulmonary rehab, if anything else. And in that pulmonary,
That's where I went.
yeah, and that pulmonary rehab, even if you don't go for every single one of their visits, you could at least see the program that they want you to do. And then you can stay at home and do it. As long as you know 100% you're going to do it. See, like my biggest thing with rehab, it's like a half hour drive there and a half hour drive back. So that's
Yes.
2 hours out of the day,
Yes.
that it's gone. So I usually go, yeah, I didn't go for pulmonary rehab yet. I mean, but when I went for rehab for my shoulder and stuff, I went for a couple of visits to make sure I understood all the exercises and everything they wanted me doing. And once I got that down, I just, stepped out of the rest of my visits. Hey, and you just came back, by the way.
I thought so.
Yeah. And I stood,
Okay.
and ended up staying at home, but still making sure that I did those exercises every single day. And, we make it too easy. I mean, it's too easy to say, oh, I don't feel good today. I'll do it tomorrow. All you do is making excuses.
And if that treadmill is sitting in the corner and you're just sitting there watching TV, looking at it, going, "I'm going to do that later," it's never going to work.
Yep.
Determination, determination.
They say that
Getting your doctor to prescribe it.
80% of treadmills sit as a clothes hanger in a room.
Oh yes,
So
yes,
people just hang their clothes on them. They use them for the first month or
that's
two,
right.
and then they never use them again.
That's
And
right.
I'm just as guilty. We had one,
Hmm.
and we had it for a while. I stopped using it. And this was way before IPF. This was just because my fat butt had to lose some
Oh.
weight. Okay, and my wife even started using it for a while, and then she stopped. So then we ended up just going to a gym for a while. We went to Anytime Fitness for a while in Greensburg, and then probably for about a year, we worked with a
Hmm.
trainer and everything else, but it didn't help. If you don't eat any better, you just put the same weight. It doesn't go
Yeah,
anywhere. You
yeah,
just have weight with muscles.
right,
That's what you end up
right.
having.
And they don't expect you to be full of muscles when you go in there, but that they give you a body mass index. I think it's 30, 28, 29, 30, somewhere in that range, which is for most people not that difficult to achieve.
Hmm. Well,
I had to be what was my weight? 180, I think, or I needed to be. I'm only 10 pounds above that now, and I was at 250, and I lost that weight not on my own, really. The OFEV gave me such serious diarrhea that I lost weight like crazy.
when the very first time I call will remember because I was saying this on the last show. When I got the OFAB for the first time, after jump through hoops and stuff and open doors, got it for me and stuff, and I got the
Yeah.
first delivery, and it came with 2 boxes of anti-diarrheal medication, and
Yes.
Homer Simpson don't. Okay, guess what? Okay, I don't have to put two and two together to know
Yeah.
that I'm going to get diarrhea from this.
Yeah.
But I have found for myself, knock on wood, for myself, that as long as I eat some kind of protein an
Oh,
hour or two afterwards, like even like sometimes those peanut butter crackers,
yeah.
eat a whole package of those. That does it for me. Yes, it's a sick joke, call I know, but when they said that, even, the worst part is when you talk to the nurses, even they laugh. Okay, when you tell them that,
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
know it's a kind of sick joke. But you
Yeah.
know, a lot of those groups, that IPF group, when I found it was great for that. It was great to, everybody seems to have the same question. Okay, how do I
Yes.
stop diarrhea? Okay,
Yeah.
and for me, it actually hurt my liver a little bit that I had to go down to 100 milligrams twice a day,
Hmm. Hmm.
150. But knock on wood, I've had no problems with the
Good.
100 milligrams, and I don't get diarrhea. I think I get diarrhea sometimes from the junk that I eat because I'm
It's
one
yeah.
to just eat. Okay, go to a Mexican restaurant. I'm like, some here, some of this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
some of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And
Well, you know what? As a matter of fact, why don't you just when you bring it out, just take it and dump it right in the toilet because
yeah,
that's where it's going to be in 10 minutes.
well, they can, except for the fried ice cream.
Yeah.
Okay, they turned me on to the fried ice cream. One day I was like, "You have anything with ice cream?" And they have fried ice cream, and I'm like, "Wait a second." See, I'm one of those logical thinkers. Okay, I was an internal auditor for years, a major officer of a company and stuff, and I started thinking, ice cream in a fryer. Let's go melt. Okay, what are
Yeah.
you talking about? Fried ice
Yeah.
cream.
Yeah.
Okay, and the waitress said there was a new restaurant opened here, and she said, "Just trust me on this one."
Hmm.
And I'm like, "Oh, what the heck?" Okay, you got IPF. Okay, I'm on oxygen. What could ice cream do to me? Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
and she came back with this fried ice cream, and it now became my most favorite thing. That even the waiter that works in there, who I see more than I see the woman anymore. Okay, as
Uh-huh.
soon as I walk in, Mr. Fried Ice Cream, come on, over
Yeah.
here. He's like, "Oh, we got a table for you over here."
Oh yeah.
It's like, "Thank you
Yeah.
very much." But it's
Now they fry everything these days.
yes, I
Snickers
know,
bars, whatever. You know what? I've just read an article on the next popular fried object that they're going to have at the state fair this year.
which is
Fried water.
fried wood. I guess you can add a little bit of coffee grinds to that, and I guess that would be a good delicacy to walk around
Yeah.
drink. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I I'm not one. It's funny. I used to be Mr. Fried Food. Okay, I mean, really used to be fried food. Now I bought. Well, my wife had bought. It's not a crock pot. It's Instapot. And I don't know if you've ever used an Instapot. You can take the meat or chicken out of the freezer, put it into this pot, pour some water in it, to cover it, throw some spices in it, close it, hit the button, and in 25 minutes, you have it's like a pressure cooker, right? You have a fully
Hmm.
cooked
Hmm. Yeah.
every night. That's my dinner. Yeah, it's boiled.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Steamed, I guess, really more. And
Steve,
then
what's your oxygen? What's your oxygen level?
I'm on 4 liters now.
4 liters.
Four
What
liters,
about
yeah.
when you walk into Walmart?
Everything. I just leave it on 4 liters.
It
That's
just
what.
stays on 4 liters.
Yeah, they say if I work out, which I laugh, but they say I work out or go do something strenuous to turn it up one. But I've never had to turn it up one. Personally, I
Mine
think.
was up to 15.
See, yeah. See, personally,
Mine
I
was up
think
to 15.
is up one from where it should
Yeah.
be. I think it should
Yeah.
be 3. Now, if it was a 3, life would be a little easier because then I could use the portable, the POC.
Hmm.
Even though those things, there's been a number of discussions on that they only throw about 2.1 liters of continuous oxygen.
Right. Right.
They don't throw
Right.
you 3 liters. But
Right.
for flying purposes, we can't fly with oxygen. So
No.
so that little POC would work for flying.
Hmm.
And with us having to make a few trips down to Florida here, what I'm going to do, and there goes one of my lights. Yeah, it went out completely. What I'm going to do is actually end up um, probably renting one from them and with an extra battery from Rotec
Okay.
in Columbus there.
Okay.
And
Okay.
fly with that because you know what? 3 liters for 2 hours is not that big of a deal.
Sure.
I mean, it's really not. It's better than having no liters for a couple hours.
Hmm.
And we had an incident probably about 3 weeks ago where we went out and I turned the concentrator off in the house, and there's a little Buddha statue in the living room. I put it on Buddha's neck, and we left with portable oxygen, the tanks, and we came back, and I picked up, the thing, and I put it on, and never turned the concentrator back on. Now that's something that I just do, without even thinking about. Thought nothing of it. Now I came up here. This is my little office upstairs, and I came up here, and I was up here about 4 hours. And my wife came up to tell me something. And I was like, you never really heard me tell you this. I was like, but a little dizzy right now. Okay. And she said, why don't you go lay down? So I went downstairs, nodded out for 2 hours. And I woke up, and I'm going to have to tell you, maybe to the audience, is that we hear the oxygen usually when we wake up. Okay. You can hear it, shooting out of the cannula. And when
Yeah.
I touched it and squeezed it, I didn't hear anything.
Right.
And I was like, okay, is the cord crimped someplace? And I went to look, and the cord wasn't crimped. Followed it all the way back. I got a 40-foot hose. Followed it all the way back to the machine, and the machine was off. Never turned it on 6.5 hours without oxygen. And I said to my
Hmm.
wife, "Well, I didn't die during that, so that's a so I guess I should look at that as a plus, okay? Or
Yeah,
like
you could. Yeah.
like Carl said, oof, yeah, okay, yeah, I probably should have had that on, but at least I know in an emergency it's not. But the flip side of that is since that time, if I'm off of oxygen for 15 minutes or so, like coming in and out of the car, something,
Hmm.
kind of groceries and stuff, I start to get lightheaded quicker
Yeah.
from it.
What's your SpO2 get down to?
Um, Believe it or not, I don't go below 96. Yeah,
Really?
it's absolutely incredible. I mean,
Mine
we
would
keep track of
mine
that.
would get down in the 50s.
See, I got to keep track of that every day. When I
Yeah.
get up, they want that. There's
Yeah.
not a, the numbers are between 96 and 99 every single day.
Wow. Wow. That's great.
In
Yeah.
fact, the
Mine.
nurse.
If I was without my cannula for a while, and it didn't take very long,
Mhm,
I'd get down into the 50s.
yeah. See, there was a nurse when I did the last 6 minute walk test. Call gets in the 70s. When I did the 6 minute walk test, you have to have your oxygen off for
Yeah.
like 5 minutes before you start. And she took the thing, she goes, it's 98 right now. And I'm like, and your point is? She goes, why are you on oxygen then? And I was like, patient? Doctor? Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't go to med school. Okay, I designed
Yeah.
websites for a number of years. Okay, I was an internal auditor. I was like, no, that's not in my wheelbase. Okay, to make medical decisions. But even with the 6 minute walk, I think it was probably about the fifth minute before we started turning up the oxygen.
Wow.
And I think it was more from I was getting tired of rolling that stupid cart because I
Yeah.
don't roll the cart. I wear a backpack with
Backpack.
the D
Yeah.
tank, and I'd rather go through more D tanks, and then just have my hands free. I'm
Yeah.
getting old and stupid. I fall.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I want to be able to block the face. Okay, before I hit the floor. And stuff. So it's just mine stays in the high 90s when sitting still. Yeah, I think most of us when we're not doing anything stays in the high 90s. It's when we do some kind of exercise or something strenuous where it starts to drop for us. And I mean, I've had good doctors. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I can knock one or two things that I'm not going to. He's been a good doctor to me all along. Changing doctors is scary because going to Florida,
Hmm.
I had to start a whole new team again. Okay, I got to get a new
Yeah.
general practitioner, and my GP has been phenomenal. Okay, stayed right on top
Yeah.
of. Okay, another pulmonary doctor. I'm going to need another pain doctor because I have arthritis in my back and everything else.
Okay.
And the fourth one is the urologist. Okay, because there's some problems with that. I actually left the doctor. They send me in the hospital. I was like, you guys don't remind me of anything else, but you remind me when I have to have another proctologist exam or colonoscopy, okay? Because I got a thing in the mail. It says it's been 5 years, and it's like, and your point is what? Okay, no, they
Yeah.
want to go
Yeah.
again. Okay, no problem. Okay, let's do it one more time while I got this insurance before I go. And because God knows what I'll get down in Florida. The strange part for
Yeah.
us, Carl can tell you, and you probably know, is that it's an end of life disease to our government.
Hmm.
So Medicaid, I should say, comes right away with this because you can't be denied an end of life
Hmm.
disease. And unfortunately, my doctors told me I couldn't work anymore
Hmm.
because I was a web designer. I sat for like
Ah.
10, 11 hours a day. And they're like, we don't want you doing that. Well, you got to be up, you got to be moving around, and everything else. I was
Hmm.
like, that's how I make my living. Okay, but no, you can't. So I'm 64, so Social Security is paying me some money. I'm getting some of my pension, which helps and stuff. And Jen, my wife's going to school.
Mm-hmm.
online to be a nurse. So next October, when I go to Medicare at 65,
Mm-hmm.
she's actually will get her CCMA license and can go to work. And that, and the reason for that is that if I gotta have a caretaker down the line, she can be my caretaker. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have to bring a stranger in. She can just register with the state and get paid the same money that they pay a company, to do it.
Right. Right.
So that's why, knock on wood, I don't think about those days because I keep telling myself I'm not going to get to that point. They're going to find a
Mm-hmm.
cure before then. Okay, and I know I could be deceiving myself, but the power of positive thought, I think, goes a long way, at least with your
It
current
does.
health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
So, Andy, do you have anything else you want to say to anyone out there that not only with IPF? Okay, now you went. How long did you wear the cannula?
Oh my. 3 years. I'm going to guess 3 years.
Okay, you know what it was like. All your friends seeing you for the first time with the cannula on and the
Mm-hmm.
oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have to say to regular people too, to make sure I can make a joke out of mine. I just say, you don't like the new nose ring that I got because that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
I call it, my nose ring now. Okay,
Yeah.
and people
Yeah.
usually laugh out of that, but it's like you see them staring at you, and they're afraid to ask and stuff, and they don't want to insult you or make you feel bad. And I'd rather have not somebody not standing there in Walmart staring at me, or in McDonald's,
Mm-hmm.
staring at me, or Caldwell, don't you like my leash? Okay, I
Yeah.
do. I call it my dog leash in the house. Okay, I
Yeah.
do call
Mine
it
was
my
my
dog.
best friend.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. So what
Yeah.
would you tell people that are going to go up to someone, anyone that they see that's in a kennel? What would you say to them?
I would just tell them what's going on. And you know, I would always have to say, because in the process of telling the story, I have to tell about acid reflux, and I also have to tell about sleep apnea. And and I look at them after I'm done with my story about those and their inclusion in this disease and in the way this disease happens. And I can expound more on that if you'd like for me to, but I would look at them and I'd say, they would tell me, oh, I've got heartburn. Oh, I've got, I snore. Well, you need to go to a doctor and have yourself looked at because it'll kill you. It will, if you have GERD or acid reflux, it will kill you
Yeah,
because it gets in your lungs as micro pieces in there when you're sleeping at night because you're snoring and you've sucked some stuff out of your stomach, and when you finally breathe, guess where it goes? It goes right in your lungs, and it turns your nice, healthy, supple lungs into hard, um, fibrotic lungs that don't work anymore.
right.
That's the
And
first thing they did to me at Mayo Clinic.
and just so they understand, is that we get the oxygen to our organs through the walls, the linings of our lungs. We take the air in, and from there
That's
is where
it.
it goes to the organs. So if
Yeah.
we get scars, it's almost like it's building a subwall to block
Yep.
the air from coming out.
Yep. Those
So,
alveoli get less and less useful as it goes along.
mhm.
Um, I probably had more recognition from people when I had my transplant, and I still hear this today. Uh, where am I? 2.5 years post transplant. You're not you're not dragging your bottle around anymore. And they're still noticing that because yes, for so long I dragged that bottle around, and when it wasn't available, I said I had a lung transplant. You look great. You're pink now. Whereas before I was ashen gray.
Yeah, we get that way. I can
Yeah,
only
yeah,
I forgot what it was like not having it on, and I've only had this on a little over
yeah.
a year, and I've forgotten what it's like not
Okay.
to have it on.
Yeah.
Because the first time, see, my doctor told me you should be wearing oxygen. It was only like 2 liters, but it wasn't where the oxygen. You see, I listened for words. As an
Yeah.
old auditor for years, I listened to words very carefully. So when
Uh-huh.
she said that, there was one night I remember we went out to dinner at Little Charlie's. I don't know if you ever been to that in Rushville. And we got
Okay.
up and we were meeting friends of mine for dinner. And I was on the phone in the car. And finally I said, well, let's go in, get a table because they get busy here. She goes, all right. And I got out of
Mhm.
the car and it was like, whoa. And she goes, what?
Yeah.
I was like, the whole earth is spinning. She goes, well, duh, it does.
Yes.
I was like, yeah, but I never saw it before. Do this.
Yeah.
Okay. It's spinning right now. Okay. I was like, just stay. Hold on a second. And she says, well, let's go inside and sit down. And I was like, no, they're going to think I'm drunk. Okay. If I go
Yeah.
staggering in this way,
Yeah.
just give me a minute. And it slowed down a little bit. And I went inside. And
Hmm.
we ate. I figure I hadn't eaten. And you make every excuse in the world. And we came out and I'd say goodbye to my friends. And from that point to my car, which was probably about 30, 40 feet, I started getting dizzy again. I was like, what is going on? And
Hmm.
that night, on the way back, we stopped in Greensburg. It was before COVID, so we'd go to Walmart at like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And we went to Walmart.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
leaning,
That's when the people who work at the carnival
right,
at the
yeah, go.
fairground show up. Yeah. Yeah. Go
Yep,
ahead. I'm sorry.
that's okay. So I had the cart hold me up the whole store.
Yeah.
Okay. I got home the next morning. I sent her an email, the doctor, and said, hey, what's going on? What the first words back? You're not listening to me. You're not wearing your oxygen. I told you to wear your oxygen 24/7, blah, blah. And I
Uh-huh.
was like, listen, lady, and I had a different word, okay? Okay, let me explain something to you. What you said, okay? And I was like, and it's not only my memory of it. I was like, I have my
Uh-huh.
wife, and wives are like elephants. They don't forget, okay? Actually, the joke you saw I had up the other day, that's why they're archaeologists, because they're always good at digging up
Yeah.
old memories. And
Yes.
so, I mean,
Yes. Yes.
so I
Yes.
mean, and she told her, and she apologized to me, the doctor says, I thought I told you. And I was like, no, you didn't tell me, was I would have been wearing it all the time.
Yeah.
You tell me, Steve, put it on. I'm not stupid. I'm going to wear it, if you
Hmm.
need to have it on. If you say, only put it on when you need it, well, then I'm only going to put it on when I need it.
Hmm.
It's simple as that. So it's kind of really weird. Now, just a second before we run out of time, tell me about the acid reflux and the CPAP and stuff that you wore.
Okay. Okay. When I was at Mayo Clinic, they said, and they were working teams up there. So I had a young doctor. He was a fellow, and he was taking care of me first before he called the older doctors in. And he was interviewing me, and he said, your right lung is worse than your left. And I said, well, that's interesting. I said, I sleep on my right side,
So do I.
and predominantly. And so we went through several other things, and finally the older doctor came in, and he's looking at things, and he says, sleeps on his left side or his right side predominantly. Did I say left before I meant right?
Hmm.
Uh, Sleeps on his right side predominantly. Right lung is worse than the left side. Snores when he sleeps. He says, don't you find that interesting? And I sat there and listened to them. And what turned out to be is the stomach coming out of the acid coming out of your stomach at night. When you snore, you and get into an apneic phase where you're not breathing at all and you're trying to breathe, it sucks stomach acid out of your stomach. And then when you finally your apnea goes away and you suck air in, you're sucking it right into your lungs. And mine would migrate mostly in my right lung. So that's something they took care of right away. They prescribed protonics twice a day, and they also got me started on a CPAP. I'm on a BiPAP now, uh, because I forget to breathe at night. So that helped
They
me.
give you new lungs. At least
Me a
it's your way of breathing.
Yeah, yeah. And I can tell you that my grandmother and my dad had acid reflux, and serious acid reflux, and they also had um, sleep apnea. Now, coming home and going to bed with a full belly is the wrong thing to do. Coming home and going to bed with a full belly of beer is the wrong thing to do, because that will attack your lungs in the middle of the night and you don't even know it. The one thing he asked me that really woke me up, he said, and this didn't happen often, but he looked at me and he said, "Have you ever wakened with vomitus in your mouth?" Well, yes, I have, because I've eaten too much. I've been a pig. I've been a glutton, or I drank too much beer. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got a buddy right now. I said, if you go through with this, you'll never be able to drink again. He said, I got to have my beer. And I said, well, you either have your beer or you have your life.
See, I don't have beer, so I'm fine. But
yeah, because it ends.
Yeah.
No alcohol. Everything is off limits.
See, I have a friend of mine back when I was in my 20s or 30s, and I lived in New York. He died a few years after I had moved out to Pennsylvania. He had died from liver failure and kidney failure stuff from drinking. Okay, I mean,
yeah.
In peace, but he used to drink like almost a half a case of beer every night.
Oh my land.
And that's, it's don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna say I don't drink at all, but it's only on a social occasion someplace.
Yeah.
I'll have 1 or 2 beers. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not even with a drink. We used to go to the Bahamas a lot. Even 1 or 2 drinks that's it for me.
Yep.
My fat ass off the ground right away.
Yeah. And tequila was my favorite, but just shots of tequila. But that's all off limits now. With all the medication I take, that's every bit of that's off limits.
Mm-hmm. And I think anyone that's even with taking meds and everything else, I think you got to be real aware. People say, "Oh, it's not going to bother me" and stuff. Yeah, it is. It's going to affect you. May not affect your driving or something like that. It's going to affect you in the long run from all the medications you're taking. So now my biggest fear is the medications, because as you know, unless you get like a lung transplant, they never take you off things once they put you on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's like which one, before they add the medicine on, I make them give me like a 17-page explanation as to why I need to start taking that, because I know I'm not coming off of it once they put me on it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I already have a big supersized AM/PM pill box. Okay. I don't know if they sell them bigger than that, So
well, they do. You get a box for every day that has 4 compartments in it.
There you go.
Yeah, and all mine fit in there. For every day, they do. They all fit in. But now, once you're on Medicare, your major medications, your anti-rejection medications, are paid for by your Part B.
Mm-hmm.
For the rest of your life. Your Part B pays for them. The rest of the drugs are taken care of with your Part D, and some of those can get very, very pricey. So you just got to look for organizations and places who are giving discounts or give you copay cards for free medications. I've got that right now. It's with Healthwell organization.
See,
one of the medications I take.
I'm going to give a shout out again. I did it on the last show to Open Doors, which is the
yes, that's for OPEB.
Yeah, for the OFEV. And
Yes.
In my case, they pay 100% because my insurance company, state, would not pay for it.
Yep.
They said my
$10,000 a month.
Yeah, well, they said my PFT was under 50%, so they wouldn't pay for it.
Wow.
And I'm like, so if it's like 49%, oh, too bad you died. Is that what you just said? Okay, maybe you didn't say the words, but that's what you just said. And and thank God there are some companies out there that is the drug company, Open Doors there for them. And thank God they do open that program to help people out.
Yes.
It's important.
They were there to help me.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a $10,000 a month drug.
yeah. Yet
It's ridiculous.
if you go to Mexico, it's 400 a month. The exact
Okay,
same.
still a lot of money.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah,
why are we paying 10K and they're paying 400?
yeah,
Yeah,
crazy, crazy.
it's insane. Well, Andy, listen, I want to thank you for joining us here tonight.
Oh,
Okay,
thanks for asking me, Steve.
yep, you get yourself a Happy Meal. Okay, you can play with the toy on the on the way home or something, And but I thank you for coming on. And if we do a show again in the future where we're
Sure.
going to do a roundtable on IPF, I definitely want to have you on with us.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
great. That'd be fun.
All right, thank you, Andy, for joining us tonight.
Thanks. Now, one last thing. The Mayo Clinic is also in Florida.
Okay.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't, but
Oh, yes. Mayo Clinic has.
down there.
Yeah, Mayo Clinic has a place in Florida, and you might search for a doctor there. I can't remember what town it's in, but that's one of the. They have one in, maybe it's in Tampa.
Well, I'm going down around that area, so I
Okay.
should be bad. So thank you for
Okay.
the info. All
Yeah.
right, Andy, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks,
All
Steve.
right,
Have a good night.
okay, now to everyone, I want to make one announcement before I forget. Scheduled for next week, we had on. Okay, then I got to take my head out of the interview. Just did with him. Okay, Santiago Cirillo was scheduled to be on with us next week. Um, Due to some schedule conflicts, he's not going to be able to be with us next week. So we will be doing a show with him. We're going to record the show and we're going to play it probably the following week. But next week, in its place, we have this singer by the name of Jeremy Parsons that's going to be joining us. Jeremy is an up and coming artist. He has a couple of albums out already, and he's a country and western singer. And I really think you're going to enjoy listening to him and hearing what he has to say. So we look forward to seeing you, and we thank you for joining us on the show tonight.